All right. I know that this is going to be a polarizing video, a controversial video, I guess. Not specifically on my behalf, but just because I know that the things that I'm going to say here are going to be things that people are going to be a little slow to admit. So let's go ahead and get right into it. For context here, I'm going to be speaking about Scott Adams, the creator of the Dilbert comic strip, his recent controversy in the comments that he said, and why I don't necessarily disagree with what he said. If you've already clicked off, then good riddance to you. But if you care to hear the actual explanation that I'm going to give here before telling me how silly I am, I appreciate and respect that. And for context, I am biracial. I have a Caucasian mother and a black father. Technically, my father's Melungeon, which is a triracial isolate of Caucasian, black, and Native American from the Appalachian region, but that's not something we're going to get into too deeply here today. I'm saying all that to say that for all intents and purposes, I am essentially half white and half black. Now, for those of you who don't know, Scott Adams, the creator of Dilbert, which is a comic book strip that is not very funny in my opinion, but that's okay because it's not created for people like me. But it's been around for a very long time. One of the earliest memories that I can have is reading my comics at my grandparents' house. I used to love the Boondocks, even when I was a little kid, even though I didn't understand it, just because of imagery, Garfield, and of course, Dilbert was one of them that I always read and never understood the humor because it's middle-aged office humor. So I didn't get it as a kid. That's not the point today. Today, Scott Adams is being canceled, and really yesterday, because of comments that he made citing statistics of Black Americans' opinions of white people, where he said that white people essentially should stay the hell away from black people. This has gotten him canceled because people view it as racist. People are saying, like, how could you say that? How could you promote this racial division? He's had his contracts canceled with his publishing deals. He's had his agent left him, his management company. Everybody in his career, his professional relationships have left him, for what their personal beliefs, and I understand. So I'm not going to tell them to make whatever business decision that they do, Basically, I'm not making this video to criticize people for not endorsing him professionally or in a business capacity. But I want to take a look at what he actually said and focus on that. He said that white people should stay the hell away from black people. Do I agree with that necessarily? In a general capacity, no. I can't say that I think that white people and black people should stay away from each other for any inherent reason. I will not say that. I will say that he has a right to say that. I do believe that he should have a right to think and feel and say those things without being canceled, having his career put in jeopardy. And let me explain to you why I believe he should be able to say something like that. Do I think that all black people are a threat to white people? No. Do I think that I'm a threat as a black person to white people? No. Not necessarily, not inherently, like not just to any random white person. No. Do I think that there are certain people in the black community who pose a higher potential threat for white people? Yes. To have acts of violence, to have themselves robbed, killed, beaten? Yes. Yes, I do. Do I think the reason that the people who I'm speaking of have a higher propensity for acts of violence and criminal behavior is because they are black? No. I think it's because, and I believe that it's because, they're impoverished and they're undereducated. Are there a higher percentage of people in America that are impoverished and undereducated that are black and Hispanic versus white or Asian? Yes. So would I tell any person, black, white, Hispanic, Asian, to avoid impoverished and uneducated people in order to lower your risk of potentially being robbed, murdered, or hurt? Yes, I would. Yes, I would tell them that. Quite plain Jane. If I can say that about impoverished, undereducated people, and I know that statistically, these races have a higher level of impoverished and undereducated people, then it would be logical that when you are looking at a person who is identifiably part of a demographic that has a higher potential to be part of a demographic that has a higher propensity for violence. You see how many qualifiers I have to jump through to make this not sound racist? And some of you might still think that it does sound racist. Okay, because the fact that black people are uneducated and impoverished at a higher percentage than white people are, do the effects of racism impact that? Yes. Is it racist for me to acknowledge that? No. Is it racist for a white person to say, well, if I have a higher chance to have something bad happen to me if I'm around these people because they are impoverished and uneducated at a higher degree, then maybe I should just avoid them? Going that extra step, does that make them racist? No, it doesn't. At least not to me. I think that if there's truth to this statement, following the path that I've just gone down, meaning that if it was no from the beginning that impoverished, uneducated people are not at higher risk of being violent and causing harm to you or stealing from you, then everything else would have toppled over, and it would be totally illogical for him to think that way about black people just because they're poor and uneducated at a higher level. I'm not saying all black people. I know that we have to throw those little qualifiers because everybody's so sensitive these days. But notice how me, a black man, talking about undereducated, impoverished black people, is not taking it upon myself to absorb that because I don't fit the description. And I'll tell you one thing. If I did fit the description of being impoverished, because obviously I couldn't be undereducated, or at least, you know what I'm saying here. If I did fit the description, I still wouldn't be participating in the violent acts. So I would say, I do understand why you would say people in my bracket are likely to do this. I fortunately happen to be one of the outliers. You see, when you don't think about it emotionally and it doesn't affect you and impact you in that way, then you can speak from a place of accuracy and objectivity. Let me play devil's advocate here for 1 second and say, if more people shared the sentiments of Scott Adams and those people were placed in decision-making capacities, meaning the bosses or hiring managers of work establishments or credit bureau agencies, real estate agents, and these were limiting factors, meaning that black people got less opportunities because of the commonly shared conceptions about them, pre-connotations about who they are based off of their race, then that would start to create a system that is problematic. And we have experienced similar things to that in the United States of America. However, with all of that being said, if that was the world, and it was the world at a time, the only thing that got black people to a better place was being better. I don't mean I'm not trying to say that you have to own up or it's the responsibility of a racial demographic to cleanse any association that they have with negative stereotypes. That's not what I'm trying to say here. But statistics tell a different story. And we can't go off anecdotal evidence, but we can go off of statistics. If there is a higher propensity for violent crime in the black community, it is not unfair for people to identify that. If it gets to the point where identifying that starts to impact black people's situation further negatively, that is a dangerous place to be in because obviously, as we talked about, undereducation and impoverishment is the cause of the issue, the problem. It's the underlying cause. And it's not going to be easy for people to break that narrative, black people specifically. But you have to be A1. And I'm not saying, I know it sounds crazy. You're going to say, well, if the world thinks this way of you, you're going to have to be extra good to show them that you're not like that. And I know it's not fair. It's not nice. It shouldn't be that way. But that's the reality of the situation, is that statistically, black people commit violent crimes at a higher percentage than any other race in the United States of America, meaning that if you come into contact with a black person, your likelihood to experience that is higher than any other race. I'm sorry that that sounds bad. Though you know how to make it not sound bad, make it not true. You know how we make it not true? By lowering the statistics of crimes. You know how we do that? By educating impoverished people. Notice I didn't say anything about lock up all the black people or anything like that. We achieve that by educating impoverished people. And that's where I'll leave this video here. I am here to say that Scott Adams, in essence, isn't saying something that a lot of people don't think and feel. I am not into the time and space that we're in where people have to say something luckily for me, I'm very good at articulating myself in a concise fashion. I'm very succinct with the things that I need to say, but not everybody else was blessed with that gift. Now, if it was just a question of making yourself sound ignorant, that's one thing, but we're talking about people losing their careers and their livelihood because they said something in an unpalatable fashion, and that's just not racism. Can we understand that? Saying something ignorant or improper is not racism necessarily. And even if somebody said something that was racist, unless it was paired with specific acts or threats of actions, then I don't even think that that should be considered past taking note of how ignorant that person who's talking about whatever racist things that they are is. That's all there is to it, man. Anything further than that is just this vitriol. And I tell you what, now let's go ahead and watch how Dilbert is going to become a symbol of hate, just like Pepe did back when they tried to make the, alt-right, him the symbol of the alt-right. Now Dilbert's going to be the symbol of the okay white power right wing and stuff like that. And we're going to see people posting pictures of Dilbert, and people are going to call them racist for even posting. Where I see the whole game plan all the way down 2023. Just so you know, Dilbert is the new symbol of national fascism. And ultra right-wing MAGA talking points, just so we know, because I'm just setting you guys up. Just watch. In 1 month, when they fire people for having Dilbert tattoos on their body because they claim that it's a symbol of hate, even though they've had it since 2004, I'm going to laugh at it all. Because that's all we can do is laugh at these kind of situations at this point. But I've spoken enough about this. I've used half of my lunch. You're welcome.